Hello, welcome back. So in the previous part we laid down a few foundations of a stronger economy in various towns and cities. So that mostly consisted of building ports and shipyards and other such trade enhancing buildings. But we didn't really do too much in the way of actual conquest, which is largely because we are kind of stuck in our towns here. The public order situation in Corduba in particular is really bad. So if we take a step out of the town, it's pretty likely that the town will at least riot, but probably also rebel. So we're kind of stuck in Iberia at the moment, but one thing we are planning to do is to move over here and, well, originally the plan was to attack Thrace, but I've kind of changed my mind about that a little bit now because we have got this, I suppose we'll call him an irritant on the island of Crete. He's just constantly attacking Kydonia, and I think we need to get rid of him. I think we need to just go ahead and fight them. And if we are going to go ahead and fight them, then we might as well go for a full-on war, and we should probably also attempt to take the town of Rhodes. It all kind of depends on what the Brutii do. I was about to call them the Scipii, but we're the Scipii. All depends on what the Brutii do, because if the Brutii are able to successfully push back the Thracians, then we probably need to attack the Thracians a little bit sooner to take a few of these towns before the Brutii can. But if they seem to be stuck in a bit of a stalemate, which does look possible, although they are looking slightly stronger than the Thracians overall, if they do get stuck in a bit of a stalemate, then we will have some time to potentially go and take Rhodes. We'll see how it plays out in a moment, but first let's send our navy over to Kydonia, and I think we will just land close to that guy as possible so that we can take him out. And let's end the turn, see what happens. Another thing I've done is I've recruited some equites at Carthage, because there's been a rebel army outside Carthage for a very long time now, and it's pretty much time to take that thing out, because it's costing us something like 250 gold per turn, not gold, but denarii, whatever it's called. So Corduba is rebelling, but it doesn't look like anything too bad has happened yet. Not rebelling, but rioting. There's a slight difference between the two, in fact, a rather large difference between the two. If they riot, it just means that a few people die and a few buildings get damaged, which is honestly fine. It lets them get it out of their system. But if they rebel, then we lose the town. But fortunately, they are back up to 80% public order, so hopefully we won't have to worry about that for a little while at least. Thrace and Julia have declared a ceasefire. Not sure how that works, because we're still at war with them, so they'll have to come back and fight them soon enough. Thapsus is also rioting. But we have now finished the Imperial Palace, so I should think that's all okay. I'm going to retrain all these. And we are now free to potentially construct some better buildings. So, for one thing, we can build the Pantheon. But that's way too expensive, and I don't think that's going to be worth it by any stretch. I think we'll have to come back to that one. But over here, we should now be ready to send a few of these units out to take out this rebel force. You have to be a little bit careful. They do seem to be getting happier, which I'm not sure why. Possibly the equites have actually improved their happiness somewhat. We do need to be a little bit careful, because if we get trapped outside the city, if we can't make it back in the space of a turn, then we'll probably have riots here as well. We'll soon find out as we step out of the town. As yeah, they do drop straight down. 70% public order, although we can lower the tax rate. That will lead to some more growth, which is not really what we want. But this looks like a fairly weak force, and I think we can just take it out now. They will probably back off slightly, but at the very least the equites should be able to get back. Let's just take them out. Okay, so the game seems to think it's surprisingly evenly matched. They have got two lots of peasants, town militia there, Iberian infantry, skirmishers, and a rebel general who I don't think I spotted before. I'm not sure where he's come from, but he's going to be the tough one. The rest of this I'm pretty sure we can handle completely fine. We just move our infantry up here, we put them on fire at will mode, and then we attempt to swing the cavalry around the back. I think we should be okay. We probably want to avoid the Iberian infantry there. We just want to get to the skirmishers as quickly as possible so that we can rout them. Problem, of course, is that Rebel General. He can protect them pretty easily, so we need to be a little bit careful of that. I would actually be pretty tempted just to charge into the Iberian infantry, but there is a road there, and when I first saw that, I did think that was the red line at the edge of the battle map, but it's not, so we can actually just completely avoid those and hit them in the back. Would be much more effective, as they are now pulling back slightly. Don't think that changes things too much. Need to be a little bit careful not to get caught out. Speed this up slightly. It looks like they're going to just keep moving away from us, but I suppose if we run, we can catch them out. As it looks like they're mostly ignoring our cavalry now. So we are about to engage. I think it's time we bring the cavalry back, hit them in the back, hammer and anvil, and try to rout them quickly as possible. So they are just running all over the place, hopefully using up their energy and making themselves nice and tired for the attack. Do want to launch our peeler though before we charge in, as it looks like they are now going to come and engage. Let's rout the peasants first, just to lower everyone else's morale. The town militia there, already routing. Peasants there are routing. If we hit the Iberian infantry in the back, we might be able to scare them off too. I think Rebel General being by far the scariest of all these units, we should probably just charge him with absolutely everything. The rest of his forces are routing already. Almost all of them anyway. Equites here probably will take some pretty heavy losses, but once the rest of the units come in,
the enemy show their true virtue.
Problem solved.
Soldiers, only frightened rabbits running from our men.
They will try and take out their leader. And then hopefully they won't show up again. Okay, with only 73 men remaining, I'm hoping that means that they will just disintegrate, and that should give us potentially up to an extra 200 income per day, which is going to add up quite a lot over a long period of time. As suspected, I could only get the cavalry back this turn, but that's still enough to bring them back into relatively high public order. So I'm actually pretty tempted now just to send the Hastati down to Thapsus instead, because they are rebelling. And Carthage's population is stable, whereas Thapsus is still growing, so it's probably going to be best that we just go straight down to Thapsus now, leave Carthage as is, consisting mostly of peasants, but that's fine. And we've still got 4,800 denarii to spend. Next thing we should do though is we should land over here in Crete. I'm aware of the pirate navy there, but they shouldn't be able to get us inside the port. That should be fine. Plus I think this fleet is probably strong enough to take these out. But they'll probably attack us either way, so we'll soon find out. First thing we want to do is we want to see if there are any mercenaries available, which yes there are. Huge numbers in fact. The 2 lots of Cretan archers we want to get in immediately. And we should probably also separate the rest of these units, but unfortunately because we are in the opponent's zone of control, gonna have to at least push him back before we can do anything else. Otherwise we could disband our units. But he's looking fairly manageable just with the forces we do have, so probably best just to take him on, see if we can get him to back off. Which we can, so that's great. Take this as an opportunity to move all of these cavalry units out of the army and into Kydonia. And now we'll hire the rest of these mercenaries. So definitely want the Cretan archers. The mercenary hoplites, always pretty good. Radiant slingers. I think are slightly inferior to the peltas. I think the peltas also have longer range, or I think the Radiant Slingers actually have longer range. I think I'm wrong about that. So we'll get the Radiant Slingers. Thracian mercenaries are uninspiring. So I might just leave those behind, just for now. Because we don't really have enough to buy them anyway. And now with a very large force of mercenaries, we should be able to take out this guy. Although he is slightly too far away, unfortunately. That's fine. I don't really want to cheese it by attacking him with the cavalry and using this guy as a reinforcing army. I think that's kind of cheesy, and I don't really want to do that. But we will take him out next turn. And unfortunately that does leave us with no money left to spend. But I think that's okay. One thing I am going to do just for peace of mind is make peace with the Numidians. They're not really a threat to us, and I don't really think they're going to do anything, but we are still at war with them, and I don't really have any plans to actually take them out anytime soon. I will attempt just to take a small amount of money, as looks like they actually don't want a ceasefire. Okay, I thought they'd agree to that pretty easily because obviously we are a far stronger faction and this is pretty much all they have left. We could very easily take them out, but they must be aware that we have almost 0 units actually near their town, so looks like we'll have to carry on with that war, but that's fine. I don't think that should actually affect anything in a practical sense. And we can go over to Egypt just to see what they have, because obviously if we do take this town, we're very likely to find ourselves at war with Egypt. It's going to be pretty tough to pull off, and we're just going to send this navy around here so that if we do get attacked, we will have backup from this second fleet. And I don't think there's much else we can do with the turn. We do have another army here, which is going to go and attack Greece. First we need to pick up these 2 guys, and before we pick these up, I think we also want to recruit the Samnite mercenaries and the mercenary hoplites. Then we should be able to take on Greece with a pretty large force of mercenaries, and hopefully take all of these towns while they're busy and distracted taking on the Brutii. For now I think that's pretty much all we can do. Would ideally like to keep recruiting Astarte in this town, but not really seeing where the money's going to come from, so we will end the turn there. I'd also like to potentially ally up with Pontus, because there is a risk if we take Rhodes that they are going to attack us. Definitely think that's pretty likely, as I'm assuming this is going to lower our public order even more. Yep. That guy must have left and then come back again. This guy looks very promising, apart from his extremely bald head at the age of 16. He has got 3 command stars straight away, so I think we will accept him, and we'll see where he's come up. Scalabus, okay, that's interesting. That's actually quite good, because we are going to need some more forces here soon. As I think we're now ready. Take this guy out, but first let's see if we can find something out about the Greek forces.
That's not possible.
Looks like Rhodes has been left completely empty. Presumably we can't get there in one turn, but if we can, that would be pretty huge. I might actually try this. Surely this wouldn't work. Surely this wouldn't work. Ah, we can't do it. Just very, very slightly too short on the movement points. That's really unfortunate. It feels like we're right next to the town, so we should be able to attack it, but I don't think we can. That sucks. But it shouldn't matter too much, we should just be able to take them out. This is just a navy belonging to the rebel faction, so I'm not really sure where the Greeks went. It doesn't look like they're on their way over to Crete. I'm not sure what to make of that, as it does look like the Brutii, for the most part, fought off the Thracians. Not really sure how they managed to do that so successfully, but we will need to go over there and attack Greece pretty soon. First though, let's take out the leader of the Greek faction, and then we should be able to take over his last town pretty easily. It's especially if he doesn't reinforce it. Okay, so I'm pretty sure we have range superiority here. We've got 2 full stacks of Cretan archers, if nothing else. That looks to be a cavalry unit, and that looks to be a ranged unit. We'll find out as we get closer. A couple of times people have suggested taking the... I've forgotten what it's called, but like the general camera off. So the general camera, or whatever it is actually called, is a feature, I guess you could call it, where you can only see as far as your general can see. Obviously, if you disable that, you can then have a look and immediately find out exactly what you're up against. But personally, I don't really mind it being on, because it is, I guess, fairly realistic, so it doesn't really bother me. So we can see they've got some hoplites, some militia hoplites, and looks like the peltasts are the only real ranged units they have. So we should be pretty safe just to hang back. Obviously, if they do charge us with our with their cavalry, we're going to have some trouble there. But should be on skirmish mode, so should be able to run away from these just fine. Don't really trust this, so I'm going to command them manually. I think it's generally fine on open battle maps, but I've had a few bad experiences recently. In siege battles in particular, where skirmish mode has not worked very well at all. These guys have isolated themselves pretty nicely, so we should just be able to charge them in the back and rout them pretty easily. I'm not really sure where they've come to attack us on their own. That seems extremely foolish. And indeed they are already routing. So that's the end of them at least. And no friendly fire by the looks of it, so that's all good. I've taken a couple of losses here. But I think that's just friendly fire, so that's okay. Can now return our Cretan archers, and I think we'll go for the hoplites because they are the most dangerous of the infantry units. They do have shields, so they are going to take the hits pretty well. But we should still be able to whittle them down pretty quickly. As far as our cavalry goes, I'd say we're fairly evenly matched to them. So it's tempting to use the rest of our ranged units as well. I think we might as well. Move our infantry forward. And we'll wait for them to come to us because they're gonna have to, they have no choice. Looks like they already are. Very hesitantly. That's all fine, we should be ready for them. Need to make sure we keep our cavalry pretty near to our Cretan archers in particular, because they are extremely valuable. And we should get a lot of use out of those. Hoplites are coming forward, 160 in their ranks, though haven't managed to take any out just yet. Should start taking some losses pretty soon. We'll move these guys over, just so they can potentially shoot them from the back slightly, as it looks like they're just shooting the militia cavalry instead, which is also completely fine. Nice big targets, and I'm kind of surprised they're just letting themselves get shot. So they kind of need those to take out our ranged units. Not that I'm complaining. Should be able to do some damage to these now. As they are turning, which makes them more vulnerable, because as soon as they turn their backs to you, their shields no longer work, so their defensive stats completely change, and you can see how quickly those go down. Huge barrage of projectiles of all kinds, and they are completely broken almost immediately. That's pretty much perfect. I think we will actually focus down the militia cav, because of course they can charge us and they can easily rout us, and if they don't want to actually take us on, that's perfect. General's cav is staying at a healthy distance, so we should just be able to treat these militia hoplites the same way we did previous hoplites. And if they really want to send in their units one by one, and it's going to make things very easy. And now they've turned their backs to us too. So, just getting completely destroyed there, unsurprisingly. One final unit of hoplites to go. These guys are out of ammo, so I think it's time to take them out of the fight. The rest of these units still have a little bit left. We'll focus on that final unit. Once that's routed, all they've got left is peasants, a few peltasts, which they haven't actually used by the looks of it, and the general's bodyguard, who I think we mostly want to use our hoplites for. So we'll send those in now. And we're going to try and take out a few of these guys. With our Cretan archers, who are about to get attacked, and I'm very worried for them. Got our cav coming in, and hopefully we can keep the losses to a minimum. Yeah, they are engaging. Right, we're going to take these guys out of hoplite stance, phalanx stance, and we're going to run them in. Try and catch them before they can do too much damage to our own general. Yeah, we are starting to rout. That's okay, if we can catch this guy out, we should be able to beat him pretty easily, and he's already routing, so that's perfect.
The king now shows his true colors as he runs to the battle.
Okay, so that pretty much just leaves a few peltasts and a very small number of militia hoplites. I think best off using our equites to chase those down, although actually there are some militia cav here. Slightly dangerous to take these on with just the equites, but we do outnumber them pretty massively. So as long as we can catch them out, we should get some easy kills. And they're facing away from us too, so that's perfect. Unfortunately, didn't manage to kill the king. It looks like their peltasts have actually, for some reason, decided to run straight into us, and we've won the fight.
Show their true virtue. They are not soldiers, only frightened rabbits running from our men.
Let's stop the friendly fire. And we'll take out those last couple of units and win the fight, having lost only one Cretan archer, which is pretty much the main thing I care about. Okay, so only 58 losses there. And as per usual, Cretan archers taking the lion's share of the kills there. One unit got 327 kills, the other one 212. And that is exactly why we need to keep them nice and healthy, because they're going to be absolutely huge for taking on the Thracians. And if we can keep them alive for as long as possible, we can pretty much use them until the end of the campaign. So definitely want to keep those as healthy as possible. And this force is still looking healthy enough to potentially go and take on the Thracians immediately.
Ready to sail. Aye, aye, Captain. Imperator. Ready to sail.
Slightly nervous about boarding the ships, just in case the pirate navy comes to attack us.
Aye, Captain.
It's definitely a possibility.
Ready to sail.
Could potentially take them on. But I think that's only one of two fleets we saw, so this fleet only has the one ship. Could see another fleet with two ships instead. We don't know where that's gone just yet. Can't actually fight them yet either. So I don't think I'll board just yet. I think we will just wait here until next turn. I could go back to the port, but then I'm not sure if I'll have enough movement points to actually get across to Sparta next turn. And ideally I like to take Corinth first, because Corinth comes with the statue of Zeus, which as you can see gives a +4 bonus to population loyalty in all settlements. I'm not really sure what that means, but I think it means a public order boost. I'm not completely sure of that, but we'll soon find out if we can take it. To retrain peasants in, what's it called, Thapsus, as expected, and over in Corduba. Do have some more money to spend now, so I think we are just going to have to do what we can to improve the public order situation. Get some Principes for more of a garrison, and hopefully we can push out their spy, the Spanish spy, with our own spy, but I've been trying to do that for a number of turns now, to very limited success. We can potentially also retrain a few equites or recruit a new unit of equites. I'm not sure that's worth it just because it's going to lower our population. It's probably not what we want. The Gauls look like they're coming to attack the Spanish as well. We'll see how that plays out. Been overtaken as the most advanced family once again. Leontia has died. Don't know who she is, so I'm not going to lose any sleep over that one. And we've still got 2,000 left to spend. Probably start in this place. Paper roads only cost 1,200 and that's going to improve our trade income quite a lot, so let's go for that. Move these guys into the town, which has improved public order. Don't think we need to retrain them right now either. This ship is going over to pick up our 2 new generals. I'm not sure we're going to be able to afford this. No. Okay, so I'm fairly okay to wait for one more turn just because we've already used up most of this fleet's movement points, and I think that's going to be fine. I'm not really in a rush to get to Greece because this force alone should be enough to take them on pretty nicely. And unfortunately, these 3 Triarii are not going to be able to take Rhodes because I think as soon as the turn ends, they're just going to recruit any unit, and that will lead to us not being able to take the town. Okay, one thing we can do is we can recruit a few more Stati. And this guy can take 3 more units with him, so I think we'll send over our strongest unit of equites, which is these guys. Still a pretty weak unit of equites, but best we can do for now. And we'll take them all with us over to Greece. Keep moving this diplomat over to Egypt just to see what these guys actually have. They're fairly weakly defended, but I'm pretty sure they have huge armies all over the place. We can see one right here. It looks like Pontus might actually be going to war with Egypt, which would be perfect. I do want to become allies with these guys. But I did check the diplomacy scroll before I started recording, and they are said to be allies. So either a betrayal is coming, or there's something far more peculiar going on. Possibly what's happening is Pontus is going past Egypt in order to take the final Parthian town, if that is the final Parthian town. I don't think they have too much left over. So it's possible that they're just helping each other out, but if they do go to war with each other, that would be perfect. I'm going to try to talk to them to offer them an alliance. I'm not... Wow. I didn't think they'd accept quite so easily. Okay, trade rights, definitely. And we'll offer them map information. And in exchange, I think they're slightly more likely to agree to regular tribute. I'm not sure about that, but let's try this. Perfect. Okay, so hopefully we'll stay allies with them. I don't really want to fight them at all. I don't think we need to. Just by taking on the Thracians, and then potentially taking on the Egyptians, we've already pretty much taken on enough factions to win the campaign, when you take into account that we are going to have to go to war with the Brutii and the Julii as well. So if we can avoid fighting the Pontans? If we can avoid fighting Pontus altogether, that would definitely be ideal. Now let's end the turn. See what happens, see if the Greeks show up. Not sure what Gaul's doing here. Looks like they're trying to bribe us, which is not a good sign. Spain, once again, spying on Corduba. Not really sure why they leave the town, only to go straight back in, but that's fine. Now, if these guys got an army with them, doesn't look like it. Ceasefire between Julii and Thrace, I'm pretty sure that already happened. All of that stuff already happened, so I'm just going to ignore all that. I don't think it means too much in the long term. Macedonia now has paved roads. I'm not sure if that actually makes much of a difference in an island province, but still, we have it if we need it. Back to being the most advanced faction, don't know what that means, don't really care anymore. We failed to blockade the port of Athens. Which is mostly because I didn't know we even were asked to do that, but okay. Let's get in the ship, and let's go straight for Corinth, I think. Should be able to get around without getting sucked into any nasty fights. A couple of huge stacks of Thracians coming south here. That's probably the main concern. Would be pretty difficult to fight those off. I've got the healthiest force here, but we'll see what we can do. Can besiege them immediately. Let's get a couple of sap points, a couple of siege towers, and a ram. I'd ideally like to starve them out, but they are a pretty weak force, just the 3 units, and it's 9 turns to starve them out, so more likely that we'll just take them on next turn, as there is a full doom stack just there. Most likely waiting to attack us. So we can recruit some more Cretan archers, which I think we definitely should. Got a very small unit of starter here. If we can move those out, that'd be perfect, but doesn't look like that's going to be a possibility, unfortunately. Let's try and return where we were. As expected, these guys have now got a unit. Just some archers, but we've literally just got the 3 guys, which is not going to be enough. I will besiege them, as that appears to have crashed my game. Okay, never mind. Okay, so after multiple attempts to make that work, it's definitely just not a thing. It's going to crash the game every single time, so we won't do that. It wasn't going to work anyway, so completely pointless to even try. There is one potential upside to the crash, which is that now we can, of course... didn't mean to do that. Okay, it doesn't make a difference. We can, of course, leave a couple of these units behind in order to take a few more mercenaries instead. Let's take these 2 relatively small units of Hastati, and first let's actually see what's in here. It all looks fairly manageable. So what I'm also pretty tempted to do is just to attack that with... Let's try a relatively small force, consisting of... I want to keep the hoplites with me because I think we're going to use those quite a lot. But if we just send these, that might actually just about work. 7 turns to starve them out, but that's fine. I'm perfectly willing to wait there. And we'll send our bigger force up to the north, but first we're going to recruit some more peltasts, which makes us extremely ranged. But now that we've stepped into some new lands, we can also get a couple more mercenary hoplites, Cretan archers, and we've still got just enough left over to recruit the rest. So, spending tons of money on mercenaries here, but these are all pretty good units, and we've got a few doom stacks potentially headed south to take us on, so we're going to need them. First, same as we did before, we're going to set up some stat points, some siege towers, and a ram. And hopefully we can assault that next turn. We can see that they have phalanx pikemen. Other 2 units. At worst, there might be a general's bodyguard, but we do have quite a few hoplites to take that on. Hoplites should do pretty well. Also got a mercenary captain, which is going to give us +1 command. Make things that a little bit easier. It's going to be pretty nice because these guys do just seem to be captains. I can't really see any family members. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a family member inside Corinth, but we'll see how that plays out pretty shortly. This navy here has located the final Greek army. Now I can't see exactly what they have, but I have got a trireme. I wouldn't be surprised if this is just a bireme. And travel a little bit from here as well. I do want to try and risk this, as it is in our favour. And unfortunately we didn't sink them, which is pretty bad. It means they can come and back up Rhodes. This ship is very vulnerable to the rebel force, or the rebel navy. Also pretty vulnerable to the Thracians. They do have a very small, very weak navy here, which probably still going to be enough to take out a very weakened trireme. I'm going to try and sail to the east to avoid that, but it's pretty likely we'll just get caught out and attacked. I am going to send this east, just to try and scare off that navy if we can find it. I think it's pretty likely you'll just sail straight past us and start defending Rhodes. I will recruit another bireme here, and hopefully that should be able to make it over to Rhodes in the space of one turn. Especially if I move my units. Be as close to it as possible ahead of next turn. And we're still pretty stuck over in Iberia. I think I'll recruit a few peasants just to put some fires out in terms of public order. And these guys are still going to be stuck for another turn. Unless I just accept that I'm not going to get the Samnite mercenaries. They do have pretty good stats. They got extremely high defense for one thing, so very good at holding units in place while we go around with cavalry and flank them. I would like to have them, but I don't think we want to wait till next turn, so we will jump in the ships and we'll start heading south. Syracuse. And I think we can probably risk leaving with our Hastati, and Equites should be completely fine. So we've got a pretty large force here too, which is going to come east and hopefully support the force attacking Corinth if they do come south with their 3 doom stacks. Hopefully we can hold off at least 2 of them, and then the third force coming in should, well, I have no idea how it's going to play out, to be honest, but I'm hoping that this force can make it over to back up our attacking force before anything nasty like that happens. But we'll see what happens at the end of the turn. That's going to crash my game. I shouldn't have let that happen. Okay, I can't actually make them change their minds, so they've got to go. We're just going to get rid of them. And now, we will see how it plays out. Gaul's still bribing us. I don't trust them at all. Supposed to be our allies. Goes to show that just having allies isn't necessarily a good thing. Worth bearing in mind if something does happen with Pontus. As oh wow. A huge Thracian force has landed in Crete. I have no idea how they managed that. Blockade Asturica in order to have games thrown in our runner. I'm not sure that's really going to be worthwhile. Look how far away that is from any navy. Could send this all the way around, but I really don't think there's any point. If anything, I should be sending this to the east because it's not really doing too much here.
Aye, aye, Captain. Out of move, sir.
So we've got a bireme in Kydonia, however, I think we're about to lose it. In fact, I'm pretty confident we're about to lose it to this huge Thracian force that has showed up pretty much from nowhere. As we have at least tracked down final Greek army, so we can take them on. Now I could move these guys back. I think they can get back into the town. But if they starve us out, then I don't think we really have any hope at all. All we've really got is a very small number of Equites. And I'm not really seeing how that's going to stand any chance whatsoever against large numbers of phalanx pikemen, among other things. So I could just say screw Kydonia and sail over to Rhodes instead. Rhodes is definitely ripe for the taking, just a couple of very easy units to kill there. But I don't really want to just give up on Kydonia that easily. That kind of sucks. I will get Hastati no matter what, just so that they can put up slightly more of a fight. But even that feels kind of pointless. Family tragedy, we've lost another person I don't know about, so I was not gonna lose any sleep over that. City expands, Cirta, that's not really a good thing because that's gonna cost all our money for this turn, but might as well get it over with. Could recruit some peasants just to keep them happy. I think we probably should as well. Cordoba has a few more peasants now, but it's not really helped too much. We'll retrain as many of these as I can. In fact, let's recruit one more unit of peasants, just in case it makes some kind of difference. As things have definitely stalled in Iberia, but it is what it is. We should now be able to besiege and take Corinth. So I think we will do that. And then we have the option of either trying to hang on to it, which is probably my preference, or we can just get back on the ships, head to the south, and try and fight off the Thracians before they can take Kydonia from us. Most likely I'm just going to... yeah, I'm just going to stay in Greece, I think, but that is an option if we do decide to try and hang on to Kydonia at all costs. But I think we've done enough for this part, so thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.